Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital. Now before I begin, be sure to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. I was recently told a story by one of our wonderful land buyers about Wheeling Gaunt, a prominent 19th century resident of Yellow Springs, Ohio. Perhaps you have heard of Mr. Gaunt, for Dave Chappelle told his story during a recent David Letterman interview. Yet when I heard Wheeling Gaunt's tale, I knew I had to highlight it in one of these videos because it is a powerful example of how a generous man can use real estate to transform the lives of generations to come. I'll share the full story of Mr. Gaunt, a former slave who became one of the richest black men in Ohio, at the end of this video. But first, if your real estate dream involves buying land in order to build a house or homestead, here is a brief overview of how to do so. Number 1, you should start by searching for land on land-specific listing sites. These sites include LandWatch, Land and Farm, Lands of America, and LandFlip. Among the more traditional real estate listing sites, Zillow is also fairly good for vacant land. And you may be surprised to know that Facebook Marketplace also has some good deals. In addition, there are many land investors like us who sell land at affordable rates. Finally, as with any other form of real estate, you can hire a broker or real estate agent to help you in your search. Just make sure that you find a land specialist. If you are looking for a local broker, you can always go to one of these land-specific listing sites, type in your county or zip code, and then see if there are ads for brokers or brokers who are listing numerous sites in the area. Number 2, check the county's zoning and building regulations. Find your property's zoning designation by searching the county GIS map or giving the local planning department a call. Once you know the zoning designation, read the local zoning code to verify that residential is an allowable use in your property's zoning district. Also research other zoning restrictions that may apply to the property, such as setbacks, road frontage requirements, and minimum lot size requirements. If you are planning on using a non-traditional material like containers or straw bale, check that the building code will permit this. Alternatively, if you are planning on placing a mobile, manufactured, or tiny home on the property, also investigate whether this is allowed. Keep in mind that many jurisdictions have limitations on where these kinds of structures may be placed. Number 3, also research any HOA regulations. If the property is in an HOA, thoroughly read the covenants, conditions, and restrictions to see what additional building limitations are in place. Many HOAs have restrictions on home size, aesthetics, and building materials. Number 4, confirm that the property has both legal and physical access. First, make sure that you can physically access the property at all times of the year. You'll also want to verify that the existing road will qualify as accessible by the building department. In some jurisdictions, a building department requires that a road meet their standards before they will allow you to pull a building permit. But it is not enough that the lot have physical access. This access must be a legal right-of-way as well. So you'll want to ascertain that the road in front of your property is a county or public road, and if not, that there is a recorded easement providing legal access. Number 5, have a plan for utilities. As part of your due diligence, verify what public utilities are available in the area. If public water, sewer, and power are not immediately fronting your property, how much will it cost to bring these public utilities to the lot? If public sewer is not available and you need to install a septic system, has a perk test been done? If so, did it pass? Keep in mind that many jurisdictions require a passing perk test before they will issue a septic permit. If you need to drill a well, how far down will you need to go before you hit water? If the lot has an existing well on it, have you tested the well? Do you need water rights in order to drill a new well? If so, do these rights come with the property? And can you afford the cost of a new well and septic system? Number 6, determine whether there are any environmental issues. The things you will need to look out for vary a little bit from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but at a high level, check for federally and state designated wetlands. You can check for federal wetlands at the Fish and Wildlife Service's Wetlands Mapper, and usually you can find state designated wetlands on a state or county GIS map. But it's important to know whether there are wetlands on a property because it is often very difficult to build on or otherwise alter existing wetlands. Also verify whether your property is in a special hazard flood zone. If it is, you will likely need to elevate your new building above the base flood elevation and also purchase flood insurance. It is generally a good idea to check whether the property has contamination before purchasing. Although, as you may imagine, there are certain sites for which it is more important to do this research than others. For example, if you are buying an infill lot or a lot in an area that had previously seen commercial or industrial use, it is a good idea to have a Phase 1 environmental site assessment done. And finally, you may want to contact the State Conservation Department or other relevant agency to verify that there are no endangered species. This is because there are sometimes development or construction controls put in place when an endangered species is present. Number 7, as your final due diligence item, check for major site issues. If you are purchasing a hilly property, is there a relatively flat space available on the site, or are you going to need to level a significant portion of it? If so, will you need to install retaining walls to strengthen or hold back steep slopes? How does water drain on the site? And will you need to regrade the land to ensure that water flows away from your building? Is your site rocky? And will large rocks need to be removed before you can construct your building? Do you have degraded or highly eroded land? And is this going to impact your foundation? In a similar vein, what is the soil profile on your site? And can it support a standard foundation, or are you going to need a more heavily engineered solution, such as piles? And finally, will you need to demolish existing structures? If so, do these structures have asbestos-containing materials or lead paint? If they do, how expensive is it going to be to dispose of these materials? Number 8. Once you have selected your parcel of land, you will need to hire an architect or engineer to design the building. Now, it's important that you hire the right professionals because in many jurisdictions, it is required that a licensed professional stamp the building plans submitted to the county and/or city building department. Number 9, pull permits. Another reason you want to hire the right professionals is that they will generally pull all required permits for you. Now, every jurisdiction has a slightly different process and set of permits that are required, but depending on the jurisdiction, you may need to pull some or all of the following: a septic permit, a well permit, a demolition permit, a building permit, a construction permit, a driveway or curb cut permit, and utility permits or connection approvals for public utilities. The process can get fairly complicated, so again, this is why it's important to hire the appropriate professional. But let's return to the story of Mr. Gaunt. In 1845, Wheeling Gaunt purchased his freedom from a Kentucky tobacco farmer, having saved the equivalent of $21,000 in today's money. By 1864, Mr. Gaunt had bought the freedom of his wife and moved to Yellow Springs, Ohio, where he grew a fortune through hard work, frugality, and wise real estate investments. Yet for Mr. Gaunt, neither wealth nor real estate were simply a means to improve his own life. When the time came for Mr. Gaunt to begin planning his estate, he willed the bulk of his wealth, close to $1 million in today's money, to Wilberforce University. But he also left 9 acres to the village of Yellow Springs, with the stipulation that the proceeds from the rent be used to purchase flour for the widows of the village. And this tradition continues today. Though the village no longer receives rent from the land, it is now, very appropriately, a public park. Yellow Springs still honors Mr. Gaunt's provision and delivers flour on Christmas Day to the town's widows and now widowers. In the words of Wheeling Gaunt, it's not what we have, but what we share. So what will you share? And a big thank you to Ton for sharing Wheeling Gaunt's story. If you also have a story, event, or individual you would like me to highlight in one of these videos, please feel free to email me or leave a comment. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down listings at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email, call, or text and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.